Hey Sam, my name is Maya and welcome to another video. This should be my second video in English, so I apologize for my maybe sometimes bad English, but I hope you can see past it. And today I actually wanted to do a book tag because I've only done one of these videos before, and that was the bookshelf scavenger hunt tag. That's an old one. That was going around YouTube when I first started watching BookTube way back in the day of like 2013. That's the only one I've done on YouTube myself. And that one is of course in Swedish, but this one is going to be in English, as you can tell. And the tag that I'm talking about is of course the Midyear book freak out tag. I've seen this tag done by multiple people, and I will link the original creator or creators of the tag down below in the description, and I will also write out all the questions down below in the description. I think there are around 10 questions, so let's get into it. If you hear any noise from outside, that's my dad mowing the lawn, so just don't mind that. So the first one is, what's the best book you've read so far in 2020? And this is a bit of a more difficult question because I've not so far given a book a full 5 out of 5 stars this year. It's been a bit of a slow year for me, it's not been the greatest, and that's also true when it comes to the books that I've read. I'd say for this question I would answer with The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I gave that one 4.75 out of 5 stars, which is very close to 5 stars. So I would say that one, I really liked it. It was my first high fantasy Brandon Sanderson work. I really enjoyed it. I thought the ending was like packed such a punch, it was so good, and I highly recommend it. The second question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020? And I haven't read a ton of sequels actually. I think I've read maybe 4, perhaps, if even that. For this one I would actually have to answer with either The Golden Lily or The Indigo Spell by Rochelle Mead. They are the second and third book in the Bloodline series, which I am loving at the moment. Yes, I'm partly reading it for the romance, but it's so entertaining, it's very fast paced. I'm really liking the main character and her perspective. I can really relate to her. Like I said, I haven't been getting into that many sequels yet this year. I've mostly been focusing on the first books in the series or standalones. So I'm hoping to get into more sequels later on in the year. But yeah, for this one, I'm answering with probably The Indigo Spell. The third question is, what is a new release that you want to read but haven't read yet? And I only have one answer for this question, and that is Gargantis by Thomas Taylor. It is the sequel to Malamander, which I read for the Stay Home Reading Rush earlier this year. And it's a middle grade book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so cute, and one of the protagonists had such a kind heart, and I really fell for his character. So I want to read more about him, of course, and I think we're gonna find out a few more things about him and his past in the second book, which came out in the beginning of May, I think. I haven't bought it yet, but I definitely want to read it sometime, maybe this year, maybe another year. Either way, I really want to get my hands on it. The fourth question is, what is your most anticipated release from the second half of the year? And I only have one, and it's gonna be not very unique or original. It's Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I used to be such a big Twilight fan back in the day, like so many other people, and it was a big part of me getting into reading. So when I found out that this new book was coming, I was so happy, and I'm so excited. I'm not expecting it to be super good, I'm just expecting it to be a fun time and take me back to when I was like 10, reading Twilight, staying up past my bedtime just to like read another chapter. So yeah, I'm really anticipating Midnight Sun. Fifth question is, what's the biggest disappointment been for you this far? I'm going to have to say Going Bovine by Libba Bray. It is a standalone novel that I read in February, I'd like to say, and it just completely threw me off the loop. It put me in a reading slump for a little while. I was so disappointed because I really loved other books by Libba Bray, like her newer books, and I was expecting a lot from that book because I love her. So it was such a disappointment for me when it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I don't think I could have gone into it with any mindset and not had it disappoint me. Unfortunately, it was just that kind of book. So yeah, Going Bovine by Libba Bray. I'm sorry. Number 6 is biggest surprise. The first thing that pops up in my mind when I think of the biggest surprise this year is actually My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. It's a weird book that I listened to an audiobook in January, I think. And it was upon the recommendation of Ariel from Ariel Bissett's. I still don't know if it's a good surprise or a bad surprise, but I'm happy that I read it. It's a very strange book about a woman who loses her mother. She's in her early 20s and she lives in New York. And to kind of deal with her sorrow, she decides to treat herself by sleeping as much as she can for an entire year, like basically going into hibernation. And about the lengths that she goes to in order to achieve this goal of hers, how it affects her body, how things start becoming weird, how she starts to feel very strange. She is a very strange person herself, and her friend is very strange, and it was a book that blew me away, but I still can't tell if I loved it. So yeah, I definitely say My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh, and I can recommend it, I think. The 7th question is favorite new author. So what new author have you discovered this year that's become a new favorite of yours? And I can't say I've discovered a new favorite author yet, because I haven't discovered that many new authors. Or at least I don't feel like any of the new authors that I've discovered have become new favorites immediately. But I think the one that's closest to becoming a new favorite is Naomi Novik, by whom I've read Spinning Silver, which was a very great book. I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars, and I can strongly recommend that book too. I think it contended with The Final Empire for best book that I've read so far this year. I really liked her writing style, and although the story building was maybe a bit slow, I really enjoyed reading Spinning Silver. She's an author that I look forward to reading a lot more by, and I'm truly looking forward to that. So she's the closest one to potentially becoming a new favorite author of mine. Number 8 on the list is new fictional crush. And I think that for me would be Adrian Ivashkov from the Bloodline series. I don't know if I could call this a new crush, because I read Vampire Academy over a year ago, and he was one of my favorite characters in that series, and he's just continued to be my favorite character in this series as well, besides the main character Sydney, of course. He's just difficult not to fall for. Like, he's written in a way that makes him very easy to fall for, at least according to me. I don't think I could think of anyone else who I actually have a crush on. Like, I don't actually have a crush on Adrian, but it's the closest I can get, I think, at the moment. So Adrian from Bloodlines. Number 9 is newest favorite character. I recently read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson together with a bunch of friends, and I want to say Embot from Skyward. What I like about Embot is that he has such a fun personality. Like, I loved reading every scene that Embot was in, and I really liked the interaction between Embot and Spencer. They always had me laughing. That's kind of why I like Embot so much, like the humor element that he brought to Skyward. But I also really like Sydney from Bloodlines, because there are like several sides of her personality that I can really relate to and see myself in. And it's really nice to just read about a character who rationalizes in the same way as I do. Yeah, I'd probably say either Embot from Skyward or Sydney from the Bloodline series by Rochelle Mead. Next one. Number 10 is book that made you cry. I don't actually think I've cried at any book this year. The one that's gotten me closest to dripping is The Final Empire, I think, because the ending... let's not talk about that now. But the ending may have had me shedding just the tiniest tear. So yeah, I definitely have to say The Final Empire, and that was just a good book overall that brought a lot of emotions to my little heart. Unfortunately, otherwise I haven't had such strong feelings for a lot of the books that I've read so far this year. Even if some of them have been really good, I haven't been feeling like crying. Number 11 is what is a book that made you happy. I'm gonna have to go back to Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and it made me happy for several reasons. One of them was, of course, Embot, who made me laugh a lot. Of course, that made me happy. But I think the most important part of reading Skyward that actually made me happy was that I read it together with a bunch of friends, or 2 friends, and I had such a good time doing that. It was a great book to read together with someone, and reading it together with my friends made the experience a lot more fun than I think it would have been if I'd read it alone. So I really appreciate that, and I thought it was so much fun just like discussing the book together with them, and you know, being able to look forward to talking to them. So that made me very happy, and I'm really grateful for my friends wanting to read books with me. Number 12 is what's the most beautiful book that you've bought or received so far this year? I've bought a lot of books. I have. I'm not gonna hide it. It's a fact. And I've received a few also. But I think the most beautiful one that I've got so far is A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gear. I'm gonna show it to you. This is what it looks like, and it's one of the cutest covers I've seen. Oh my god. And it's such a specific style, I think, that just is really up my alley. And the cat is adorable. It's even on the back as well. Yeah, I love everything about this cover. I like the shade of blue. I love the font on the front. I think the art style is amazing. Every new chapter has a little flower. Look at all the like treats that this cover brings to us. Like, oh my god, I was so excited when I received this. And not just because Kirsten Gear is one of my favorite authors, because she is, but also because this is so damn beautiful. This is definitely one of them, and it's a book that I haven't shown on the channel this year because I haven't made like a full haul, and it's not even in any of the ones that I've recorded but not posted. So yeah, I want to show off this one. It's her newest book that's been translated to English at least, and I think it's a standalone. It's some sort of fantasy that takes place in a castle, or a hotel actually. A hotel that's up on a mountain, and there's a fantasy mystery, and I'm so excited to read it. Oh my god. Number 13 is what books do you need to read before the end of the year. So I actually have a list of 15 books that I've made that are like books over 400 pages that I want to read this year. I think I've only read like 4 of those, so like those entire lists, they're over on my book blog, Mountain Gore Books, which I will link down below. So all of the books on those lists that I haven't read yet are like priority, kind of. I say that, but those are not the books that I'm picking up, so I don't know how much priority they actually are. But to list a few, there is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. There is The Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, of course. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo is a book that I've been meaning to read for a while, so I want to pick that one up. Also The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which I've heard is supposed to be one of the best books ever. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which is also supposed to be a very good book. More like grimdark. I want to try reading grimdark. I think I could like it maybe. So those are a few books that I should read before the end of the year. Let's not mention The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which I've said that I'm going to read this year. We'll see how that goes. But I really want to read it. It's my intention to read all of the books on those lists, and we'll just see how it goes. I'm not going to force myself too much. Those were all the points on the list. So this has been the Midyear Book Freak Out tag 2020, and the first one that I've done. So let me know how, I don't know, let me know what you think. What are your answers to these questions? Have you read any of the books that I mentioned today? What did you think about them? Is there any book that you want to recommend me that maybe comes out this year? Thank you for watching this video. Sorry if there's been like a lot of noise in the background. I hope there hasn't been. Subscribe and leave a like. Yes, we're doing that. And I'll see you in another video. Hejdå!